Right, tip 2, aperture for maximum photo sharpness and the depth of field that you need for the photo. So while shutter speed deals with motion, aperture controls the depth of field, or as I like to call it, depth of sharpness. And that impacts, of course, on the overall perceived sharpness in a photo. So depth of field is the range of distances appearing acceptably sharp within a composition, or as I like to call it, depth of sharpness. I mean, where does the field come into this anyway? A wide aperture, which is a small f number, be careful Rick, like f1.8, that creates a shallow depth of field and that isolates subjects with blurred backgrounds, and this requires precise focusing on the subject matter. So the smaller the aperture, the more precise you need to be, and the longer the focal length, the more precise you need to be, because if you zoom in, you're sort of magnifying the problem, you're making it harder to get things right. But a narrow aperture, which is a large number like f16, I love the aperture scale, this creates a large depth of field which keeps more of the scene sharp, and this is common in landscape photography. And then there's the bit in the middle, the lens sweet spot. Every lens has an optical sweet spot. Doesn't matter how expensive it is, it doesn't matter how cheap it is, every lens has a sweet spot somewhere in the middle, probably of the aperture range. And it's often 2 to 3 stops narrower than its widest aperture. On my Canon 17 to 40mm lens, my sweet spot is f8. And that's why I take all my photos at f8. Because at 17mm I got the depth of field that I need. Depth of sharpness, sorry. And it's given me the highest quality image capture. It's all so important, and all these things are working together. And maximum and minimum apertures at both ends of the scale, they can introduce softness, and there are other errors which I won't go into here. But if you're shooting wide open and you're getting softness around the edges of the photo and you're taking, say, photos of people, do you care? No, you don't, because that's out of focus anyway. So you just need to remember that. It depends what you're taking photographs of. But if I used f32 on a super wide lens and it gave me really bad distortion or blur or some other error around the edges, I'd be bothered about that. So what you're taking photographs of does have an impact on the scale of the problem. And you can get diffraction at very narrow apertures too, which is like bending around the blades causing image softening. So basically, avoid maximum and minimum aperture if you want the sharpest photos. And you also need to be absolutely clear about the aperture's influence on depth of field, how much the photo is sharp from front to back. It's no good having something super sharp in a photo if the subject matters out of photo. You need to think about these things, but you also need to know about your lenses, how they work, how depth of sharpness is calculated, and also where the sweet spot is and what errors you can get with your lens. So much to learn, isn't there? But the good news is, once you've learned it, you know it, and you can apply that to every photo you take with that lens going forwards. So it's time well invested, dear listener.